Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Drinking some Diet Mountain Dew. I really like this stuff. It is bad for my teeth. Don't tell my girlfriend I'm drinking this. I'll get in big trouble. Well, she knows. But anyhow, video has nothing to do with my teeth. Nor does it have to do with crows or birds. But I can hear, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear them. Every once in a while I hear them outside, some American crows, because I'm in America. And really glad they're still here. We don't have the numbers we used to have, but I remember, I guess about 20 some odd years ago, West Nile virus became a thing here in America and almost wiped out the American crow. Like literally, they almost went extinct because they were completely defenseless against that virus. So they're making a comeback, which is really cool. I like those birds. And this video isn't about birds either, although my friend Patrick Cummins, who I've known for a long time, 30 some odd years, I think he's the director of the Audubon Society in Connecticut now, which is really cool. But once again, video's not about birds. What is it about? Well, Doomed One is a frequent commenter on my channel, and used to be Doomguard. I think he changed his name because somebody else was using that name. Anyhow, gets this great comment on the video I just made about fudging die rules or fudging circumstances in RPGs, the guilt and the shame. And I always like the comments this guy has, really thought-provoking. But he asked this great question: is allowing someone to take the average technically fudging, since they could have possibly failed the test? And so that's a great topic I would love to just kind of tackle head on. And this video is not necessarily going to be about Ubiquity, because this applies to any role-playing game. You know, why are we making these die rolls? I already made some videos kind of tackling the subject from the skill standpoint, and I'm going to talk about the skill standpoint here as well, because that's the easiest one to talk about. I think one was called something like auto fail, auto success, auto wash. The other one was Weevils in the Flower, looking at more levels of granularity, but both looking at skill systems and why do we make these die rolls, what are the chances. I think I might even made a video or two about chance dice or anything in the Ubiquity system or style. Anyhow, I probably made a Ubiquity video or two, you know, along with an OSR video or two. I'm also really kind of pumped. This is a long introduction, but what the hell. Dune 1 is going to be, I believe, participating in RPG A Day 2017. You all ought to participate too. Can you believe a Yankee just said y'all? Where every day in August we answer a question. And so I believe Dune 1's actually going to be making videos. We've been kind of goading him to make some videos for a while now, so this should be cool. So I want to kind of tackle the subject. Like I said, from the standpoint of Ubiquity, because that's how the question was framed, it's very easy to look at this particular system, not just because I'm playing it, but because mathematically it's pretty clear once you sit there and crunch the numbers for a second what's going on. But it is universal. So in Ubiquity, if you're not aware of it, it's a die pool system. For any given skill, you end up rolling a die pool. You can choose to take the average, which means, like, say if you're rolling an 8-die pool, the average of that is 4 successes, because they're yes-no dice. And you can decide, you know what, I'm going to take the average, I'm not going to roll the dice, that's how many successes I get. So I might succeed at, in this case, it would be a hard task. Unless you decide you want to roll the dice to perhaps get a greater margin of success, or the game master says, you know what, in this particular case, you cannot take the average. It's too clutch. Maybe we're involved in combat. Maybe you're using a magic system. You're not allowed to take the average here. You have to roll dice. And the game master in Ubiquity has the authority to decide this is going to be a roll that you're not going to take the average. Just like in most cases, the player has the option to take the average or not take the average. Tasks in the Ubiquity system are ranged. There's a 6-point difficulty scale. So easy tasks would require 1 success, average is 2, tough is 3, hard is 4, very hard is 5, and near impossible is 6. And in general, every 2 dice you have in your die pool, that's about how you're going to roll. What are the real numbers involved here? That's the first thing that we'd look at. In general, and I looked over like the 18, you know, up to from like a 2-die pool to an 18-die pool, which is crazy, but that's how many dice come in a set. So I figured, what the heck. On the average, you will roll the average 65% of the time if you actually roll the dice, at least the average or better. If you would roll, if the task you were trying to do was one easier than your average, well, then you're going to roll that 85% of the time. So say you have an 8-die pool, but your target number is only 3. It's only a tough task. You're going to actually succeed rolling dice something like 85% of the time. If it was an average task, so 2 below what the average of your die pool would be, it's going to be something like 94% of the time you would have rolled and succeeded that way. What about the other way? If you've got this 8-die pool, but you're really trying for a very hard roll, you're looking for 5 successes, At that point, you're only going to get that 35% of the time, more or less. If you're looking for that near impossible with an 8-die pool, well, in that case, I think you're going to get 2 successes greater than you normally would by the average, only 17% of the time. 3 harder, 7. 4 harder, 2.5. 5 harder, 1% of the time. It's a long shot. And likewise, on the other end of the scale, by that time, you're approaching 99% and 100 success rate. So, before we get into some more of the math and using style points and using chance dice, because I'm going to touch on that a little bit, not a whole lot. So this isn't going to be a math video. First of all, you look at this and say, oh, well, geez, you're going to roll the average or better only 65% of the time. Isn't that a little bit like cheating? Aren't you kind of fudging and letting people take in the average? So you have to ask yourself the question here. Just like you would in like an OSR D&D game when I decide to auto-pass somebody because they have a 16 dexterity and they want to get across that slippery plank between 2 buildings I talk about all the time, for God knows why I talk about that, but that's the example that comes out of my head. Why are we asking the players to roll dice in the first place? I talked about this a little bit, actually a lot, in that the 2 videos I mentioned. Why are we asking you to roll dice in this case? Is it for tension? Is it because it's suitably dramatic? JDRD 30, Francois said it best. I'm paraphrasing him a little bit here. But if everything's dramatic, then nothing is. He talks about, I forget which video it is. I wish I could remember so I could link it here. The idea that a lot of times it doesn't ask for dice rolls. Okay, you want to do this? Sure, you can do that. Sure, you can do that. Oh, you want to do that? You have to roll for this. And instantly, the tension, your heart starts beating a little faster, you start sweating. It becomes exciting. Everybody's ears perk up. Everybody looks at the die roll because this is important now. So that's one of those reasons that you can decide, this is why I want to make my players roll dice. Or conversely, I'm not going to have you roll dice because this isn't that big of a deal. One of the things I thought about, there's various skills in Ubiquity. And they don't get very, very specialized that you can, but you might have some kind of mechanic type skill in something like Hollow Earth Expedition. And there's a difference between fixing your car. It's your second car. It's a lazy Sunday afternoon. You need to put a new alternator in. You've been putting it off for a little while. So you're going to make your mechanics roll. Okay? And say we're going to call it a tough task. It requires 3 successes. Here at that point, okay, I'll let you take the average. It's not that important. You're that good of a mechanic. You have a 6-die pool, in real life here as a mechanic. Yeah, okay, you can auto pass that. That's not a dramatic moment in your life. Now, you're in the Hollow Earth. You've got some kind of Jeep. It needs a new alternator. You need to swap out some part or jury rig or fix something. And you need to do this because you're in Tyrannosaurus Rex or Allosaurus territory, and you really need to get the heck out of there and get to a place of more safety. That's dramatic. At this point, you better believe I'm calling for a roll. I'm going to be disappointed if the Game Master doesn't call for a roll. In playing the Hollow Earth Expedition game, the one shot I was involved in playing, All for One Regime Diabolique, there have been times that I've climbed up things or done other things or seen other characters do what they're good at. Didn't require a roll. But then there were those moments, well, this is kind of dramatic. This is interesting. Francois had me make a die roll, even though I spent style points to get up this wall, the wall of the Louvre, to get into Queen Anne's chamber. I failed. That was great that I failed. I was rolling 8 dice. Should have been able to do it. I was looking for 3 successes, and I failed. That was cool because it was a dramatic moment. Other times, really didn't need to make any kind of roll. I think I got up the wall of the convent without a big deal. It wasn't quite so dramatic. There wasn't as much writing on it. There was more writing on my stealth roll, which did not go well. So, you have to ask yourself, what are the reasons that you're making the players roll dice? Or not roll dice? Is it cheating, or is it something that your character can just do? Because part of the deal in a game like Ubiquity is your skill level, the amount of dice in your pool, and therefore your average. This represents what your character can normally do competently. I'm normally an okay mechanic. Maybe I can do things that are average. Maybe 2 successes is more my gig. Maybe if I'm sitting there and number crunching and stuff like that, maybe I have an 8-die pool. Maybe I can do things that are hard. I'm giving myself some credit here. Maybe if I'm going to be entertaining in a YouTube video, well, maybe I've got a 6-die pool. We'll see how entertaining I get. Maybe I can do tough tasks. There's other things that I'm really good at in real life. I don't necessarily need to roll the dice. There's moments in our real life. You're driving your car. Okay, is there a chance that I'm going to make a wrong turn every once in a while? Sure. In a game, Do I want to run? Is that what I want to spend my time in the game? Let's roll the dice here to see if Joe accidentally takes this wrong turn down this road here. And we're not talking about something that dramatically alters the game. There's something that's a little bit of a nuisance. Do we really want to roll dice here? Is that what we want to spend our time on? And so I'm not talking about, I'm not necessarily advocating one way or another. I'm just kind of, talking about the mindset. And, maybe you do these things to move the story forward. Maybe it's a completely different reason or a more involved reason. But we all have to make this decision for ourselves. What are we going to concentrate on in the game? What things are we going to assume? Just like I talk about a lot. I love the concept of competent characters. I talk about that when I talk about OSR games all the time. My character's a warrior. He ought to be able to fix his armor. He ought to be able to use rope, ride a horse. Do I really want him to make rolls for this? In our All for One game, everybody has a nominal ride school. Philippe, my character, he's a great ride school. That's the kind of character I wanted him to be. The other people, we were rolling dice to see if we could make this roll to stall and not get all beat up. I don't think I even had to roll dice. I think I might have just been able to take the average because my die pool was so hard. Everybody else is using style points and Briscoe, brought his butt in a bag next to him because it practically fell off in the ride. But other times when our characters are riding horses around town, if we're lucky enough to ride horses or going from point A to point on the journey to Bavaria or to the Bavarian border, did we need to make ride rolls? Was there a chance that one of these guys that was less skilled at riding might have his horse trip or stumble or do something silly on the way there? Sure. Did that really matter in that particular session? No, it would have been a sidetrack, an unnecessary detour that it wouldn't really served very much interest. Was it real? Would it be realistic if we did that? Sure. I don't think it would be cheating though or fudging, and I'm just kind of putting that out there mathematically, or conceptually rather than mathematically. So now you're in this position where perhaps what you want to do, the difficulty that's been called for, is greater than your character can comfortably do. It's greater than the average. Maybe the game master is calling for a roll. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's possible to take the average if you want to. But say you have a 4-die pool. You can comfortably achieve average tasks that require 2 successes. However, the game master has informed you that, say this is a hard task. This is too greater than what you are comfortably able to do. I think I ran into at least one of those situations in Hollow Earth Expedition. Might have been the plane crash or whatever was going on. Do I want to spend style points on this? Because that's what I could do. At this point, if I'm in this position where I need 4 successes, I need to be able to achieve a hard task, but I'm rolling a 4-die pool, my average is 2, I have a 17% chance of rolling these 4 dice and making it. That's not really doing it for me. Maybe it's a situation where the game master has said, well, you could take the average. Anybody that's skilled enough, anybody that's got an 8-die pool, well, they're simply going to be able to do this. Maybe it's a more dramatic moment, but maybe it isn't. So I could use my style points. That's one of the reasons they're there, is to boost your ability. That's the biggest reason they're there, is to boost your ability to perform skills. So let's just say that I want to, in fact, boost my die pool with my style points. Well, maybe I have 2 style points. So maybe I can, I'm still going to have to roll dice, but instead of having a 4-die pool, now I have a 6-die pool. So at this point, I've raised my chances from 17% to 35%. I've given myself an 18% chance increase, more or less. So not so bad. Maybe I still have to roll dice. Maybe I've got 4 style points laying around, and it's that important to me that I'm going to be able to achieve this particular task or goal. And once again, spending style as a Ubiquity character, style is a real part of your character in the system. That represents you exerting yourself above and beyond the normal range of effort you're going to put into something. I'm pretty good at doing certain things, and I don't break a sweat anymore. But if it's really important and I want to put that alternator in because the T-Rex is around and I want to get this Jeep moving, I'm going to be putting everything I got into it if I can. So I'm going to spend my style points if I have any. So maybe I spend 4 style points and get myself up to this 8-die pool. This has boosted me from 17% chance to a 65% chance, but pretty much giving me a 48% boost in my ability. And maybe it's something where the game master say, maybe it's not a T-Rex wandering around there, your Jeep. Maybe the GM says, you can take the average in this case. So I've given myself that boost. Maybe, though, I'm in this position where game master's calling for a roll, Maybe it is this tough task. Maybe it requires 3 successes. He says, well, you can't take the average here. You have to roll dice. Well, now I went from auto success to, man, I got 65% chance of success. And there's a rather large lizard, a dinosaur wandering around here that would probably like to eat me if it could. So maybe I'm spending my style points at that point to increase my chances of success. I spend 2 style points, giving myself this 8 die pool instead of my 6 die pool that I have for the achieving this tough task. At this point, I've increased my chances of success here from let's see, what was it? I think I'm boosting it by like 20%. I'm going from 65% chance of success to 85% chance of success rolling these dice. Yeah, pretty good. And if I spend 4 style points at that point, now I'm boosting my chances of success up to like 94% chance from 65. So almost a 30% increase in my ability to achieve success. Because that's what I really want. I really want to be able to get out of this situation. So that's part of what style is for. At this point, we've realized that the video has gone way longer than I intended and been more about Ubiquity than I intended. However, that's okay, because here we are, in for a penny, in for a pound. But I still believe these things are kind of universal. I want to talk really briefly about the degrees of success or failure in the Ubiquity system. Now, not surprisingly, the mathematics work exactly the same as what I've been talking about in terms of what are your chances of scoring more successes than your average. And so say, for example, you've got a task that requires 3 successes. Let's just say you have a 65% chance of hitting that because you have a 6 die pool. What are your chances of getting a greater success? Because this allows you, it's very mushy, it's very fluff. They use words like a minor success is when you score exactly dead on the average, or the target number rather. 1 more is a simple success, 2 more is a complete success, 3 more is a major success, 4 more is an exceptional success, 5 or more is an amazing success. Likewise, the words for failures go from simple, complete, pitiful, dreadful, and abysmal. What do those words mean? They mean what you say they mean. What are the chances of actually scoring those? Well, let's say we need 3 successes. My chance of getting 1 more than that is only 35%. 2 more, 17%, 3 more, 7%, 4 more, 2.5, 5 more. That amazing success. Like, I can't believe you did that. 1%. And likewise, for getting those failures, goes the other way. One of the things you realize is if I have a 2 die pool and this task requires 6 or 7 successes, like one of those near impossible things, do not attempt it, because more than likely you're going to score one of those pitiful, dreadful, or abysmal failures. You get 1 success and you needed 7. That's bad. You're better off just not trying in many cases. Likewise, you're more than likely you're going to score maybe 1 or 2 successes, maybe 3 successes on an off chance, depending on how big your die pool. So you have to adjudicate as a game master, as a player, if you do the shared narration, how are you going to narrate the success? Well, what does that really look like? And so that can be a lot of fun. You could, of course, I suppose, spend style points to increase your chances. Say you can take the average and succeed at this. You could increase your chances to get one of these amazing successes. So it depends, like, what is this task really worth to you? What is this? Do you want to dial the phone like no one has ever dialed the phone before, and I will get this number? Right? Nobody's ever dialed with such panache and flair. Or is it something that's more important? It's a neat part of the game that people kind of ignore, but it's something to take a look at. I don't think it's a thing personally to plan for, but it's a thing to realize, hey, you just scored 3 successes more than you needed here. That's kind of cool. Let's narrate this. Anyhow, let's talk about chance. The other thing that the game has, and we're going down a brief four-way, even as I said I wasn't going to talk about Ubiquity too much, is the idea of things like chance dice. And chance dice are really just a great little mechanic. Go to this example that I failed to implement, but here's what happened. Let's just say that in the all-for-one session that I've run so far, Sebastian says, hey, I want to try to convince these people using my diplomacy, which I don't have, but using some persuasion, to hire me as a guard. And that's essentially what he was trying to do. He didn't have the skill, so he had 0 dice to roll. But there's always a chance. There are chance dice available in Ubiquity, and the game master can bestow them if they choose. And I would always choose to do this because this is too entertaining not to be honest with you. This is part of what role-playing games for me are all about, the Hail Mary pass sometimes. That time it's like, I can't believe you just did that. That's awesome. So let's just decide that I've decided that this chance of getting hired at this ball at the last minute, even though they have enough defense forces. Let's just say I say this is a hard task. It requires 4 successes. Every 2 chance dice that the game master gives you increases the difficulty of this task by 1. So if Sebastian had asked for 2 chance dice, he would have needed 5 successes. He's rolling 2 dice because he had none to start with. He has no chance. Okay? The first time he would have any sort of chance for success is if he asked for 8 chance dice. At this point, he needs to roll 8 successes in order to succeed. So all of them have to come up ones or evens. He has a 0.39% chance of success at that point. And if he asks for 10, which is the maximum, and you always want to ask for as many chance dice as you possibly can in Ubiquity, then he has a 1.07 chance of success. So he could have succeeded. Now, let's say I was really charitable in that case and decide, it's not a hard task. It's a tough. It requires 3 successes. At this point, the breaking point for him, where it might have started to work, is if he asked for 6 chance dice. He would have a 1.56% chance of success. If he asked for 8, he would need 7 successes. So he had to roll 7 out of 8. That would have given him 3.5% chance of success. And if he was smart and asked for 10 dice, and if I'd let him, he would have needed to roll 8 successes out of 10 dice. That would give him a 5.5%, roughly, chance of success. Always a chance. So I dropped the ball on that one, but that's what I would do if the situation presented itself again. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a long-winded video that went down a couple tangents. Is it cheating when you take the average? Is it cheating when you auto-pass somebody based on their abilities, based on their skill level? It depends on intent. And in these cases, I believe, for me, if you're looking at like, what is this? What's the purpose? Why am I making them roll dice in the first place? Because I've had videos talking about this either way. If it's because the moment is important, if it's important to the character, if it's not something that is going to just be minutia that nobody's really interested in this particular time, if it's kind of fun and dramatic, these are things I have to consider. Do I make them roll dice or not? I don't believe it's cheating if our motivations are, pure, for lack of a better word. So that's my answer, but what's your answer?